Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number 5000-454-632. This is, oh, the lights went out. And we're back. This is a full mortise, polished brass, steel-based hinge. Let's dissect the part number and determine exactly what it is. So 5000 from Bommer means a number of things. It specifically means that it is a 5-knuckle hinge, that it is full mortise. You can see from the swag on the hinge leaves there that the leaves are meant to be mortised when they're brought parallel to each other into the edge of the door and into the frame. The 5000 also means that it is a plain bearing hinge. There are no bearings here at all. It means that it is a standard weight hinge, and it would be 134 thousandths leaf thickness on this hinge. It means that it is a typical butt hinge with a normal size, and that it also means that it is steel based. It's made of steel. Okay, the 454 is 4.5 by 4 is what this hinge is. In Bommer nomenclature, 454 means that the hinge is 4.5 inches tall and that it's 4 inches wide. Not an uncommon hinge at all. 4.5 by 4.5 is certainly far more common, but some people, and if the condition calls for it, a door that is installed in a frame and there is maybe a no casing sort of profile or a very thin, small casing. Some people will say, you know, the knuckle or the vertical axis of pivoting or the knuckle or the pin sits too far out from the face of the door. And I suppose that is certainly something that I would agree with. If you have an installation that does not require you to have a 4.5 inch wide hinge, by all means, 4 inches is a hinge that you should consider. It is certainly a little more aesthetically pleasing because, in my opinion, when I study it out in the field, I notice it far less than otherwise. Now the 632 in the part number, that means two things. We already know that we've established that this is steel, and that is inferred in the 632. The 632 also means that it's polished brass. So it means properly that it's polished brass on steel. Okay. Now, there is a link below this video to a document called Cut Sheet. And the cut sheet is very important because what happens is it allows you to review the dimensional properties of this item. All right. It's a generic cut sheet because it will show you different sizes, including wide throw hinges. And let's tackle it now. In the lower left-hand corner, you'll see catalog number and 3 columns. You'll see how the 4th digit changes when the base material changes. So the 0, the last 0 in 5000, means steel-based, means it's made of steel. If it turns to 1, it's brass or bronze. If it's 2, then it's stainless steel. So you can immediately figure out if you want a full mortise plain bearing hinge, but you want it made of stainless, it'd be a 5002. It's that simple. The rows that are under those columns give you variations on this 5000 series or 5-knuckle and 3-knuckle for that matter hinge. If it becomes a 5010, if that 1 in the part number, the 3rd digit becomes a 0 to a 1, then it's a wide throw hinge, meaning that the hinge is wider than it is tall. An 8000 hinge is the same hinge except that it's 3-knuckle. It'd be a 3-knuckle hinge. And then when you add the BB in front of the 5000 or 5010, it's ball bearing. And then a ball bearing hinge in the 3-knuckle becomes an LB. It's lube bearing. So it's the same sort of concept. And then you'll be able to see the locations of the screw holes where this, what some people call half moon or semicircle, is called what we would call template pattern. The operative word is template. It means that if someone says it's a template pattern, these specific hole locations are exactly what the screw holes will be. And speaking of screw holes, you're going to get screws in a complementary finish. You'll generally get, well, you'll generally get all machine screws and half wood screws. This package has all wood and all machine screws. By all means, indicate in the comment field what screw packages you need for the hinge. You might be doing a wood door and a wood frame. Indicate all wood screws, just so that we can be sure you're getting the right material. Not that it fluctuates, but you know, generally you'd see all metal screws and half wood. That's kind of industry standard. So clarify if you're doing half and half, one side wood, one side metal, for sure don't worry about it. You'll get enough to do one of each. But if you're doing all steel, specify it, or aluminum, possibly. Now, as I was saying earlier, a 4-inch wide hinge is common for the reason of aesthetics, when it's really not required to have a 4.5-inch wide hinge. 4-inch wide hinges are very common when it comes to aluminum doors and aluminum frames. And while I can't say that this is going onto an aluminum installation, you will often see 4.5 by 4 in those instances. Maybe not square corner, that's unusual for aluminum, but nonetheless. Now this hinge is available in a steel-based hinge in all of the common finishes. Your 600 for prime coat, 601 for bright black japanned, 603 zinc, 609 for antique brass, 612 for satin bronze. Pardon me, I'm saying the wrong numbers. Those are brass or bronze based numbers. You're going to have 639 will be satin brass. Okay. 646 will be satin nickel. You can do that as well. 640 is oil rub bronze. 652 is satin nickel. 651 is polished chrome. And you'll be able to get those finishes and many others. Bommer all but encourages requests for custom finishes. There's a lead time involved naturally, but they will at least manufacture the finish that you like. There's no, moving on, there's no security or safety features on this hinge in terms of the pin. This is what's called a non-rising pin, because once you seat the pin down, it will really not have a tendency to work its way up, as you may have seen otherwise. This is not to be confused with a non-removable pin. The pin is certainly removable. If you were to drive through that hole that's in the bottom, button tip is what that's called, you would be able to tap that pin out. I like to assemble each of my leaves to the door and to the frame for all 3 or 4 hinges, and then get the door hung and insert some of the hinge pins down. Now, regarding the security options, we were saying this is non-rising, but doesn't mean it's not removable. This can obviously be removed. If this is an exterior door that swings out, you'll certainly want to order a non-removable style hinge, meaning that there will be a set screw that will be drilled and tapped into the barrel of the hinge, so that when you seat the pin and then tighten the set screw from the exterior, you can't get to that set screw at all, and it's all but impossible to drive that pin out. It's literally all but impossible. I've tried. You can't do it. And that would be the way to proceed. Now, Bommer has other options in terms of security features for hinges, such as a security stud would be very common, but that could all be reviewed in the link to the manufacturer's page, which I'll discuss in a moment. Decorative tips. This is what is called a button tip. This looks like a button on a coat. You can do ball tip, which is certainly the next most common, or the most common of decorative tips. You can do steeple tip, urn tip, acorn tip are all available. You can do radius corners. This is obviously square corner. You can do 1/4 inch radius or 5/8 radius. That's all available as well when it comes to that. And probably the last thing I'd like to point out to you would be the Bommer logo. And right above it, it says Made in USA. That's a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. There's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up all the Bommer items that we sell. That would be quite a task, since there are certainly tens of thousands of Bommer items in the site. More appropriately, there's a link to the product catalog where you can review all of Bommer's product line when it comes to commercial, institutional, industrial, residential hinges. What Bommer's most known for, however, are their spring hinges, whether it's their 3029 series double-acting spring hinges or their single-acting spring hinges. But they also have a comprehensive offering of quite high-end lavatory hardware that you're going to see in restrooms that will be in fine hotels, rim bolts, latches, and they are also, Bommer's going to have a line of other industrial hardware like the steel curved bumpers that would be applied to the face of, say, a pair of double-acting metal doors, Bommer hinges as well, and it might be a warehouse situation where you come up with a cart and push the bumpers and push the doors open. If you have any questions on the Bommer, 5000-454-632, 4.5 by 4 polished brass hinge or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.